I grew up in a quiet home. The house was small, but the silence felt big. My father lived with us, but he was often far away. He sat at the table. He watched TV. He read the newspaper. He did not talk much. When I was a child, I watched him a lot. I watched his face. I watched his eyes. I wanted to know how he felt. I wanted to know what he thought about me. My mother talked to me every day. She asked me about school. She asked me about my friends. She asked me how I felt. My father did not ask these things. He did not ask my name in class. He did not ask what I liked. Sometimes he did not even look at me. I remember one morning very clearly. I was about 7 years old. I woke up early. I put on my clothes by myself. I tied my shoes very slowly. I wanted to do everything right. At breakfast, I sat across from my father. He drank his coffee. He looked at the table. I said, "Good morning, Dad." He nodded. That was all. I felt something cold in my chest. I did not know the word for it then. I only knew it hurt a little. At school, teachers said I was quiet. They said I listened well. They said I followed rules. I went home and told my father these things. I stood near him. I waited. He said, "That is normal." He did not smile. He did not say more. I started to ask myself questions. Did I do something wrong? Am I not good? Why does my father not like me? At night, I lay in bed. The room was dark. The house was silent again. I heard my father cough in the next room. I listened to his steps. I wanted him to stop by my door. I wanted him to say good night. He never did. I saw other fathers outside. They held their daughters' hands. They laughed with them. They lifted them high. I watched from far away. I told myself not to look too long. At home, I learned one thing very early. I learned to be careful. I learned to be quiet. I learned to take less space. When my father was tired, I stayed away. When he was angry, I stayed silent. I learned his mood from his steps. Fast steps meant anger. Slow steps meant a long day. Sometimes I tried to make him happy. I cleaned my room. I helped my mother. I finished my homework early. I showed him my notebook. He said, "You should do better." He closed the book. I nodded. I said nothing. Inside, I felt very small. I felt like I was not enough. I felt like I needed to change. I did not hate my father. I just wanted him to see me. I wanted him to say my name with warmth. I wanted him to say, "You are good." But the house stayed quiet, and my heart learned to wait. As I grew older, I learned one clear rule. If I tried harder, maybe my father would like me. So I tried. I woke up earlier than before. I made my bed every morning. I washed my bowl after meals. I spoke less at home. I did not want to make mistakes. At school, I studied very hard. I listened to every word in class. I wrote my homework with care. I checked my answers again and again. When I got good scores, my teacher smiled. She said, "You did well." My classmates clapped for me. I felt warm in my chest. I took my test paper home. I held it in my hands all the way. I wanted to show my father first. At home, he sat on the sofa. The TV was on. I stood in front of him. My hands shook a little. "Dad," I said, "I got a good score." He looked at the paper. He did not look at me. He said, "You can do better next time." That night, I cried very quietly. I covered my mouth with my hand. I did not want anyone to hear me. The next day, I told myself again, next time will be different. I helped more at home. I cooked rice. I cleaned the floor. I carried heavy bags with my small arms. My mother said, "You should rest." I shook my head. I said, "It is okay." I waited for my father to say something. I waited for his voice. I waited for one kind word. He said nothing. I started to feel tired. Not in my body, but in my heart. Still, I did not stop. At family dinners, I stayed polite. I listened more than I spoke. When my father talked, I agreed, even when I did not understand him. I wanted peace. I wanted approval. One evening, I brought home a prize. The school gave it to me. It was small, but it mattered to me. I placed it on the table. I said, "Dad, this is for you to see." He glanced at it. He said, "Prizes are not important." His words fell like cold rain. I stood there. I did not move. Later, I looked at myself in the mirror. I asked a soft question. Why am I still not enough? I started to change inside. I smiled less. I spoke less about my dreams. I kept my thoughts to myself. I became very good at hiding feelings. People said I was strong. They did not see the weight I carried. Every night before sleep, I asked the same question. What else should I do? I did not know the answer. I only knew I was still trying, and I was still waiting. I did not plan the fight. It came on a normal day. The sky was grey that morning. I felt heavy inside. I went to work. I smiled at people. I did my job well. At night, I went home. The house felt the same. Quiet. Tight. My father sat at the table. He looked tired. He looked serious. I stood near the door. I took a deep breath. My heart beat fast. "Dad," I said. My voice was low. "Can I talk to you?" He looked at me. He did not answer at once. Then he said, "Say it." I walked closer. My hands were cold. I felt like a small child again. I said, "Why are you always unhappy with me?" The room went silent. The clock on the wall made a soft sound. Tick, tick. He looked at me for a long time. His face was hard to read. "You think too much," he said. "You should just do your part." His words were simple, but they hurt a lot. I felt something break inside. My eyes became wet. I did not want to cry, but I could not stop. "I try very hard," I said. "I study hard. I work hard. I help at home." My voice shook. "I just want you to see me." He frowned. He said, "Life is not about feelings." That sentence stayed in the air. It felt heavy. I asked, "Do you like me?" The words came out before I could stop them. He looked away. He did not answer. That silence was louder than any shout. I felt angry. I felt sad. I felt tired. "We live in the same house," I said, "but we feel so far." He stood up. He said, "You do not understand me." I said, "Then help me understand." He shook his head. He said, "You are still young." Those words closed the door between us. I felt my chest hurt. I felt alone in front of him. I turned around. I went to my room. I closed the door slowly. I sat on the bed. I looked at the wall. My hands stopped shaking. That night, I did not cry loudly. I felt empty. I thought about his face. I thought about my words. I thought about the years of silence. I understood one thing. We spoke the same language, but we did not hear each other. I wanted love. He wanted strength. We stood on two sides of the same room, but we could not cross the space. That was the night I stopped asking questions. Not because I had answers, but because I was too tired. After that night, I became quiet again. But this time it felt different. I did not wait for his words anymore. I did not look at his face for signs. I stopped asking myself questions. Life went on. I went to work. I came home. We ate at the same table. We spoke only when needed. At first the silence hurt. Then, slowly, it became light. One evening I sat alone in my room. The window was open. The air was cool. I watched the streetlights turn on. I thought about my father. Not with anger, not with hope, just with calm. I asked a new question. Who is he when he is not my father? I started to see small things. He woke up early every day. He went to work without complaint. He came home tired. He said little. He did not share his feelings. He did not show fear. He carried everything inside. I realized something slowly. He grew up in a hard time. No one asked him how he felt. No one told him it was okay to be weak. He learned to survive, not to express love. That did not make the pain go away, but it helped me understand. I also looked at myself. I saw how much I tried to please him. I saw how tired I was. I asked myself another question. Why do I need his approval to live? The answer was quiet, but it was clear. I wanted to be seen. I wanted to feel safe. I wanted love. These wants were not wrong, but I also saw a truth. He could not give what he never learned. That night I wrote in my notebook, I am not broken. I am just different from him. I stopped trying to change him. I stopped trying to change myself for him. One day at dinner, he talked about work. I listened. I did not agree or disagree. I just listened. He looked at me for a second. Then he looked away. It was not warm, but it was peaceful. I learned to respect his world. He learned to respect my silence. We did not understand each other, but we stopped hurting each other. I felt space grow inside my chest. That space felt like freedom. For the first time I thought about my own life, not as his daughter, but as myself. I did not feel angry anymore. I did not feel afraid. I felt ready. I made my decision quietly. I did not tell many people. I decided to leave my hometown. I wanted to see a bigger world. I wanted to live my own life. The days before leaving felt slow. I packed my clothes. I packed my books. I packed my memories. The house looked the same. The walls were old. The table was still there. Everything stayed. But I had changed. On my last morning, I woke up early. The sky was pale. The air was cool. My father sat in the living room. He drank his tea. He looked calm. I stood near the door with my bag. I took a breath. I am leaving today, I said. He nodded. He did not ask where. He did not ask why. For a moment, I felt that old pain again. Then it passed. He stood up slowly. He walked to the door with me. The door opened. Light came in. He looked at me. His face was serious, but his voice was low. Take care of yourself, he said. That was all. But those words were enough. I nodded. I said, I will. We stood there for a second. No hug, no tears. But there was respect. I walked out of the house. I did not look back right away. The street was quiet. The road was long. As I walked, I felt light, not happy, not sad, free. I thought about my father. I did not blame him. I did not excuse him. I accepted him. We were two people from two times. We had different ways to live, different ways to love. I did not need his approval anymore. I had my own voice. The bus came. I got on. I looked out of the window. The house grew small. I whispered to myself, I am enough. The road opened in front of me, and I walked forward.